What's going on? Hello and welcome to 30 Minutes to Merge. My name is Matt Desmond, aka Beard of EDU, aka Beard. And I just wanted to welcome everyone to yet another session of 30 Minutes to Merge. Super excited about this one. Just a quick kind of behind the scenes look. I don't know, a year, 2 years ago, Andrea asked me if I was interested in hosting 30 Minutes to Merge, and I said absolutely. I couldn't wait. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Andrea as my guest. So it's kind of full circle here today. Pretty excited. So yeah, I think Andrea is somewhere in here.
I was
There
hiding.
she, there she is. Awesome.
Hey,
Um,
Pierre. Hey. Yeah, this is like the moment of like some meta inception. I'm typically
Absolutely.
here, but I'm behind the scenes running production. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Thank you. Thank you.
So, as always, I like to introduce my guest with a couple of questions that I ask beforehand, just so you get like an idea of who they are outside of maybe what they do every day. At least for work. So I just wanted to kind of give a quick rundown of who Andrea is, and then we can kind of get into her topic about the security at the speed of GitHub, which sounds really dope. So, in terms of hobbies or things that she likes to do, she likes to play golf, she practices yoga. And the thing that I thought was the best was she's working on becoming independently wealthy in Animal Crossing. So that might strike true for some of you. I know I'm still way behind on paying. I don't even remember his name. That's how long it's been since I played, but I definitely owe back payments on that mortgage. She does have two dogs. She's got Charlie and Wilson. She called them giant mutts, so I just imagine they're big, big dogs, probably drooling all over the place. A recent purchase was a second screen, which has helped for travel, which is kind of a cool little thing that I'll probably start looking into, which is actually why I ask people what they bought, because I'm just looking for things to buy myself because I apparently don't have enough stuff on my shelf behind me. In terms of any type of open source that she's contributing to or working in or interested in, um, she's been looking at the White House report translation project. Was the last one that she was active in. And typically she just kind of forks open source repos, and she's looking forward to participating in some. And then my final question is always around what would be a fun GitHub action that she'd like to either create or have created for her. And in this one, it's an action that automates the aggregated reporting from multiple account platforms, which would be a community person's dream. Sounds really high level for me, but it sounds pretty cool. Data is always awesome. It's always cool to see like what's happening. So getting information about like what people are doing within a community sounds even better. But that's Andrea. She's going to talk to us about a really cool topic, and I'll catch up with you all at the end.
Thank you so much, Pierre. I appreciate the introduction. And by the way, I am independently wealthy on Animal Crossing. So if you have bills, hit me up. I'm happy to come by and drop some bells on your islands. But thanks again. As Beer mentioned, we're going to talk about security today. If you're here, maybe you're here because this is a topic that interests you, or maybe you're here because your boss say, "Hey, go figure out how we can make sure that we are doing everything we can to protect our code." And this is a topic that is not super sexy, but I'm going to try and make it fun. We're going to spend a lot of time mostly looking through some demo things. I will do one, maybe two pull requests so that we can see our code scanning in action, which is amazing tool. And again, we're going to talk about this because it matters. There is a reason why GitHub Advanced Security exists. We need to focus on risk reduction. We need to focus on allowing our teams to deploy quickly, right? And sometimes when we think about a focus on security, we start thinking that we're going to lose speed and we're not going to meet our deadlines. And that's why a lot of things sometimes we just kind of like let them go and hope somebody catches it. But hopefully at the end of today, you will have some tools that you can go ahead and go after them, go enable them in all the repos. I will show some specifics, and then at the end, and I will also share all the links to everything that we talked about, so that if you want to go do some more in-depth reading, you are completely welcome to. So at all levels, whether you're an individual contributor or you are a EM, an engineering manager. Right now, as a digital leader, as someone who's either writing the code or participating in the ecosystem or leading engineers who are, we have much more challenges than we used to before, right? It's kind of the Wild West there for a hot second, but now there's a ton of compliance and security concerns that depends on sometimes governmental organizations set them, sometimes it's your own organization's policies. The end of the day is that this is somehow all of our responsibility. And so it's important that we have an awareness of what tools can actually make this easier in the spirit of just making things automated and not spending your time caring so much about what security looks like in your projects, but more about writing the code and the things that you really want to do. What's fun for you? So I want to ask you all a question. This is something that our CISO actually asked us a couple of times already as part of our all hands, and is who here is a member of your security team? Whether if you're a student, do you think that you're a member of the security team on whatever project you're working at school? If you're a professional developer, are you a member of your security team at work? And if you're thinking about contributing to open source projects, when you're contributing to open source projects, are you a member of the security team for those projects? And so I love to see what kind of answers are coming up with. So just kind of at your convenience, kind of take a quick moment to think about it, and just let me know if you think that you are in fact a member of your security team. And then I'll hopefully ask the same question at the end, and then we shall see if the answer changed or not, right? But let's go ahead and get started. I want to share with you all a super compelling graphic that you might have seen this before. It's making the rounds for a reason. Because we are the home of open source, and we support over, I want to say the last number is 83 million developers, which is just unbelievable to think about. We've been able to study the source code that is open and do some analysis to help us better enable our tools to support, code at this massive scale. This graphic is one of my favorites because it just kind of represents that curve where you see like the sun says, more money, more problems. But in this case, it's more code, more problems, right? The more you collaborate, whether it is a project that you started yourself and then you're trying to scale an app and you're thinking, well, maybe I'm not super keen on doing front-end stuff, so I'm going to bring somebody in. It doesn't matter the size of the project. At some point, you're going to end up collaborating. And the more you collaborate, the more issues are introduced into your code. This slide shows us why this is even important to GitHub and why we chosen to make an investment in this space. So we had, at the time, I think it was 70 million lines of open source code, right? And part of the analysis was to take a look and see when the actual security vulnerabilities and security concerns started coming into influx, right? And key takeaways, as the lines of code go up, so do the threats. Software, of course, runs the world. I don't need to tell you this. You're here because this is what you do. One thing that we can point out is specifically, if you take a look at that green line, you can see that these are the new security threats that are introduced to those repos. And so even though all of you already have a clear understanding of certain things that you can do to prevent your code from not being as secure as it could be, we still continue to make errors. And this is not because you're not a great developer. This is simply by human. We're humans, we make mistakes, and inadvertently, we sometimes commit things that we're not supposed to. And so it's important to, first of all, give yourself grace. If this has happened to you, if you have been the person that has done something that gone into production that you regretted, listen, it's not your fault. To err is human, and we're here to learn how we can actually use this technology to just be our backup person and, kind of look over our shoulders and help us make sure that those type of accidents and incidents do not happen. You can see the mismatch between the expectations of developers and security expectations. I think there is some number out there, like per one developer, or per 100 developers, there's only 10 security folks or security researchers, something like that. But it's to say basically that the thought of the past was security is somebody else's job. So you develop this kick-ass app and you ship it, and before you ship it, hopefully you have a security person in a corner in a basement somewhere that's actually taking a look at and running audits on that code and doing pen testing, doing everything else that they need to do. And then they give you a thumbs up and off you go to to the next thing. But the reality is that not every team has those capabilities. And all of these tools that GitHub has created and continues to enable and grow are not to replace security researchers and security folks. This is not the case at all. This is just to give you a hand and make you as a developer more aware and just have a more comprehensive view of what the things that you can do yourself. To make your job easy, At the end of the day, you're gonna ship that to a security person. They're gonna find the whatever X, Y, Z violations or whatever your organizational policies are, and then they're gonna turn around to you and ask you to fix it. So, it saves you time to just go ahead and have the awareness of the things that you shouldn't do, and then you can move on from there. All right, awesome. So we look at application security as a comprehensive tool. So we're thinking about the project development cycle as a whole. And we're going to talk about some of the tools that we can do that with here. Some of the tools that, again, you can start using right now. It's important to understand that, again, this is not happening. Security vulnerabilities are not happening in your code because you are not a good programmer. When we have most projects that I think at an enterprise level, 80% of the code comes from open source. So, inadvertently, and these projects are also taking their own security measures, but again, we're all human and mistakes happen. So we're gonna take a look at how we can prevent some of the things that we can do ourselves. For example, taking a look at code scanning, taking a look at how we can prevent secrets from being exposed, taking a look at our dependencies and understanding how we can automate some of these things. Basically just to bring the security topic closer to development lifecycle. You come to this platform, you're writing code here, this is where you're collaborating. It only makes sense that we provide you the tools to make sure that that process is as smooth as possible when it comes to security. And again, that you're not working twice as hard. So let's get started. First thing that I want to talk to you about is going to be Dependable. And I will be super thrilled if all of you, please, just kind of give me the grace of going to any repo that you have that you're using, whether something that you have public facing, any project that you have, I don't care how big or small, and enable Dependable. Please do it. Do it today. It's 100% free. It will remain to be free forever. I know that when the acquisition of Dependable first happened and there were a lot of integrations into GitHub firsthand, there were a lot of folks that had concerns about notifications. Some of you were getting bombarded with like 1,000 emails from projects that were old. Maybe those dependencies did not even matter to you, but the tool was doing its job, right? And its job is to create an inventory of all the dependencies on your projects, all of this amazing open source code that, listen, we stand on the shoulders of giants. No need to reinvent the wheel. Why work harder? So we take all these dependencies, Dependable is gonna create this inventory. And then when the first integration happened, everybody got just bombarded with notifications. I'm happy to share with you that you can now configure how you're notified. So if this is one of the things that's kept you from enabling Dependable, you now have options, right? You can go ahead and enable it in your repositories right now. It's super simple. What this is going to do, obviously, once you enable it, it's going to allow you to automate the way that dependency updates are happening. It's going to monitor those dependencies and give you a shout when either there is a newer version. Now, sometimes there are security flaws within those dependencies, and when they're identified, sure, the dependency creator might update it, but unless you manually, this is before, you manually go in and update, bump those dependencies up, you're gonna find yourself with a vulnerability in your code. So you enable Dependable, and guess what? Dependable is going to do this for you. So I encourage everyone to please enable it today. You can see how on the screen there is an example of an application and it had a Dependable notification and it's bumping it now. And basically it's gonna create a pull request if you enable Dependable alerts. And you can merge it, you cannot merge it. If you realize that this is something that maybe you wanna change the dependency to begin with, however it is, you have the power to do that. The tool is just gonna make it easier for you to get there. So how do you turn it on? And this is something that please go and do right now. Super simple, go into the settings tab. And please let me know if you can see my screen or if I'm missing, like chopping the top off. I do that sometimes. But I will need you to please go under the settings tab and go into code and security analysis. Again, this is free for public repos, free for open source, free for private repos. It's gonna be always free. Enable your dependency graph. Why? When you enable the dependency graph, then we're going to start creating that inventory that I mentioned, and then we can start performing the analysis and telling you, hey, this needs to be bumped up. Go ahead and enable Dependable alerts. Again, there is a magnificent prompt right here that will take you straight to configuring your notifications, so you don't have to worry about getting 1,000 emails. Then we're gonna enable the security updates. This is gonna automatically create those pull requests that are gonna help you resolve those alerts. And then a super cool thing now that is actually kind of newerish, and it's gonna be the Dependable version updates, where automatically we can set Dependable to open the request, and when the update is because there is a new version, it will do the entire process automatically. You can enable that, and it's going to automatically create a template. This, for most projects, more than suffices. The only thing that you need to do is tell it which package ecosystem you are working on, like where your dependencies are. So I think most of the things in this project, and this is a very flawed project for a reason. It's a fork of a OWASP project that's for testing and showing this type of demonstration. So we're gonna tell it, okay, yeah, please, my package ecosystem is NPM. And again, regardless of your package ecosystem, Dependable can scan those for you. Go ahead and set the intervals and set the location of your package manifest. I think the JSON file is on the main branch. So we don't need to do anything else. I'm gonna be a bad person here and commit straight to main, but this is simply for, we're gonna do for demonstration purposes. So now that I enable the dependency graph, you can see how it's already telling me in your package.json, we found 8 vulnerabilities already. These are shown to the owner of the repository, but now you can set specific security policies and see who is in charge of the security of your repo. So if another thing that's kept you from doing this is the fact that then you have to come in and deal with it, know that you can now delegate and find someone else in your team to maybe take a look at those. So when we click on the Dependable, you can see how automatically went ahead and scan our package.json file. And if I go back to where it's giving me the alerts, I can click on it, and it's gonna give me actually a more comprehensive explanation about each specific alert. So again, this project is super flawed, so it's gonna have a ton of alerts just for demonstration purposes. One amazing thing about the way that this report is displayed is that you can actually go ahead and filter them out or organize them by severity. So, we're gonna look at the critical ones first because it's important. And it's gonna tell us, it's gonna give us a brief explanation of exactly what it is that's going wrong in our code, whether it be because we needed to bump a package. It looks like for this specific package, you can see how there is not even a fix. It's just actually giving us the suggestion to go ahead and find an alternate package because there is no way to fix it right now. And then it looks like there is another, here we go. There is a vulnerability dependency here, and it looks like for this in particular, we will have to go ahead and take a look at that log file. So again, this is a super flawed project. If it was something a little bit more simple, it will basically create a pull request for you and automatically tell you exactly how to bump it. So I welcome you to fork this repo, and I will share it just so you can test it out. And actually, I have a simpler one that I can pull up, and please ignore the 20,000 repos and all the stuff things that shouldn't be up there. But I want to say this one just has like a dummy. Yeah, here we go. It's like a super simple dummy test file, just so you can see it's clearly a pretend package. But you can see, like, for example, for this, when this was created a long time ago, it was 5.10.2. I think ESLint now is up to like 18th or something. So for demonstration purposes, let's go ahead and do it here because I think it will make it a little bit more, it'll be easier to see when you don't have so many alerts as that other project. So again, I went back to settings, I went back to code security and analysis, and now I'm enabling all these beautiful things. The minute I do that, you can start seeing insights, and you can start seeing, it's gonna start taking a look at the security and what Dependable alerts I have, and it's gonna start scanning. So we'll give it a moment. We'll go to something else, and then we'll come back, and hopefully we'll be able to see some results and the pull request already enabled. So this is Dependable. Again, it's free for everyone. So I definitely please welcome all of you to go ahead and set it up. Then we're gonna talk a little bit about secret scanning as well. And again, another very important topic because to err is human, and I've heard this story and I never get tired of telling it because it's things that happen, right? When you're working and you accidentally leave your token, your AWS token there, or you leave some other information. Maybe it could be even be PI, it could be user data that you're sharing that you're not supposed to. So secret scanning is going to allow you to automate the way that you are looking for those things that do not belong in your code. It's going to look for secrets that are embedded inside the code. I have an example here of you can see there that is a we had a Twilio token, an API key, I'm sorry, that was embedded right there in the code. And so the idea is that as a developer, you're now presented with all the information you need, not only about, yes, what happened when they found the secret, but it's actually going to give you a timeline because sometimes these things don't happen automatically, right? So you'll be able to go back and see exactly when the secret was exposed. If this is part of one of our scanning partners, our secret scanning partners, and I will share the list next, then this problem is going to be automatically taken care of. They're going to invalidate that secret for you. But then sometimes it doesn't happen as fast. So it's important when you're starting to look at remediation that you know exactly, have a clear view of the timeline. This has happened to folks that I know personally, where AWS tokens were left and next thing you know, you have a $25,000 bill. And, sometimes Amazon is super kind and allows us to kind of go sorry, accidentes, but then most times it's not. And so you don't want to get stuck in a position where you're exposed like that, especially some of these other providers that don't have set limits for spending, which kind of mind blowing, but that's a whole other conversation. So in any case, when the secret's being scanned and it's found, then automatically we send it to our partner and we tell it, please go ahead and cancel out that secret so that it cannot be exploited. That deactivation process, it happens in the space of seconds. So super important that this is enabled for your projects. Now for all of your public projects as a default, they are enabled. Secret scanning is enabled. However, if you have an enterprise project, or if you have a private repo, you can go back in and actually enable it yourself. But it's going to be looking for hard-coded secrets. It's going to be looking for embedded tokens. It's going to be looking to automate the workflows for some of these public repos so that automatically it's going to deactivate those codes that have been mistakenly committed. And I think right now we have over 36 cloud organizations who are our partners, and they're helping us, of course, streamline this process and protect your leaked secrets from being exploited. So super important that we take a look at that and understand why this is only to our advantage. And again, it's by default enable on all your public repos. And this is a not very comprehensive list. I think we have definitely more than that, but these are some of our scanning partners. And so if you use any of these services, you definitely can have a bit more certainty that secret scanning, GitHub secret scanning is going to have your back and help you prevent those secrets from being committed. Perfect. All right, now let's take a look at sort of the third part, what I wanted to share with you today. And if you have not used CoQL or any code scanning tool, I definitely recommend that you take a look. I do want to share a little bit about what goes under the hood of this, because I think it's important to understand what it's looking for. Of course, this came to us, CoQL, as part of the acquisition by Semel, these super smart folks at Oxford University, researchers that now some of them are actually part of our GitHub Security Lab. Shout out to the Security Lab, they do amazing work. And they've been just basically trying to bridge that gap between research, academic research, understanding the vulnerabilities, and you, making sure that you know how you can prevent your code from being attacked by some of those vulnerabilities. So code scanning, CoQL, it's the QL is basically the language that is written on, revolutionary engine. QL is not the only scanning engine that we use. Primarily is what we use. One of the things of beauty of CoQL is that it is a community-driven product. And what does that mean? That means that out of the box, you already have, I think it's it might be close to 2,000 queries that have been created, whether it be by researchers or other people just like you who had different use cases and thought, well, you know what, I'm going to create my own personalized query to go ahead and look for the specific things that are important for my product. So you can see there is, I want to say 1,800 automatically out of the box queries. And then you can also add your own query and help us grow the understanding and grow the capacity as a community for us to just help keep our code secure. It's community power, of course. You can kind of see, I love this particular slide because it shows how, by the power of the community, we actually can work and scale a lot faster. And then the way that it works, it's important to note so that you have an understanding, because sometimes, obviously, and especially if you're dealing with proprietary code, that you want to make sure that you're not exposing yourself to anything else by trying to scan it to prevent from being exposed. But basically, for compiled languages, it works as very much like SQL. What it does is it builds a database, it extracts the source code, and it's going to basically create a copy. It's going to trace and extract. And what happens is the tracer is going to identify when the bill is invoked, and it's going to take that argument, compile it, passing it to the extractor, catches the extractor, and they work very similar. It does the lexing and parsing below an AST, but that's it. That's when it stops, and then that is when CoQL comes in. It supports multiple languages, C#, I think PHP, Python, Java, JavaScript, and growing. The way it does this for the specific language with piggyback of their own of their own compiler. So like for Java is a piggyback of JavaXZ. And this is only helping us look for entry points via a tracer and just mimic from their own. So your source code is secure. Now for interpreted languages, essentially it mimics an interpreter, and it's gonna take a look at the files and interrogate them directly, the actual files, and help build out like that semantic information. So it's not reinventing the wheel. It's just doing the things that your language already has a provider for, but it's making it all happen right there in your code integrated. So I can share a list of the actual supported languages at the end, but I want us to quickly take a look at a pull request. We're gonna just go back to my other screen because I want to show you just how the analysis work. And let's go back, and I think this might have caught our alert, but we'll take a look at it in a moment. So this, again, a very flawed project. I want to go ahead and add an API endpoint to a file here. And I hope my screen is large enough. If it's not, let me know on your screen, and I'll go ahead and try and zoom in a bit more. But we have this file, which is going to be our server TS file. And I want to go ahead and add another endpoint, an API endpoint. And then as I do this, you'll probably, because we're just going to copy and paste this code. And by the way, I just typed E to go ahead and edit directly. The great news is that actually CoQL has an extension in Visual Studio. So you can do all of this right on the editor. I'll just stay here in the .com UI just for demonstration purposes. So let's scroll down to the area where we're adding our apps. And let me see, it looks like, yeah, we can stick it right here. So I'm going to do a code and paste. And if you can see this and you've done this sort of thing before, you might already see what the issues are. So this function to add an API endpoint. And if you know what the error is, I'd love to see it on the chat. And right now I'm not looking at the chat, but I promise I will take a look later. So very Stack Overflow, let's go ahead and just copy and paste there. And so now that we introduce that code, actually, I will take one step back, because first we need to go ahead and tell our security tool here to actually look for this, right? It will be absolutely useless if we commit that and there is nothing catching it. And we do this via an action. And very simple, again, just going into actions. You can see how specific to this project, actually, it looks like CoQL is already enabled. But if it was not, and I can go ahead and just delete this workflow runs so you can see what it looks like when you were enabling it. Oh, wow, that's a ton. Let's just leave them there for now. But there is a starter action that you can see. For this particular repo, it looks like it's already enabled, and I thought I removed it, but maybe not. But this is what it looks like right there, and it's going to give you there. It actually shows us the languages: C, Go, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, and Ruby. And then when you click on configure, it's going to take you to, again, preset that YAML file for you. If you're not a fan of YAML, please know that this is actually super simple to set up. The only things that are super important that you tell it here is what event you want it to execute on. So here's going to be on push and on pull request, and which branch you want it to look at. And then you can set the scheduler for however often you want this scan to happen. This is one of my new favorite things, that is actually translating the cron. You don't have to go elsewhere. It's actually telling you exactly what that means. So this is great. We can tell it exactly where to look for, when to look for it, the languages of our project. Automatically, we can see what's supported. And actually, if you want to check out the more in-depth documentation, you can see it all there. So this looks great. We don't need to do anything. No need to reinvent the wheel here. Please ignore my lack of commenting here. Oh, this is all because we already have one. So we'll take it out, but that other file should definitely catch our error in the code here. So let's go ahead and commit that. And if we scroll down, we're gonna create a pull request for it. And so now what's happening on the background is we're gonna kick off that scanning, and I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like in a moment. So here we go. We're creating a pull request, and now we can see if we go back into our actions tab, we should be able to see that there is a pull request here. It automatically kicked that action. So it's a workflow run, and you can see now how it's scanning now. And if we click on it, then we'll actually be able to see the details of the analysis. Automatically picked up the languages as they were listed in our actual YAML file. You have a ton of options here as far as, again, when and how. And you're gonna see how now is actually doing the analysis. And this is, I mean, that was kind of a large project file. I think it scans something like, I don't know, 50,000 lines and maybe under a minute. But we'll be able to see here firsthand when it comes back with the analysis. And I'm gonna quickly take a look at the chat to see if anyone actually figured out what the vulnerability was on that code. And there are some guesses there, like with cryptography. Yeah, definitely. But we'll take a look actually once the analysis is done. It will give us a more in-depth actually answer as to what happened. And this is taking a bit longer, and I think it's because I have a ton going on. So let's just go back to the original project where I forked this from, because then I can show you what that looks like. So here we take a look. It looks like we added that search point. It completed the job. It analyzed it. I think this is after the remediation, so you actually don't see the pull request there. But if we go into the actual pull request, we can see how it's gonna run through all the checks, and automatically it's gonna tell us, okay, you failed code scanning. After 6 seconds, they move a lot faster here. And then when I click on the details, and this is one of my favorites, that it actually gonna give us a brief. It's gonna obviously show us exactly the commit chat, and it will actually give us annotations on what it is and what line our issue was. And these are two of the errors that, again, things that we can commit to our code that we wouldn't even be thinking about it, just quickly writing that function to add an API search point. Next thing you know, we're introducing these two vulnerabilities. But before you merge that pull request, this analysis is happening so that it will never actually become an issue. There were two things there. I think something with resource consumption is one, and then the other one, when we're not rate limiting, so that makes us vulnerable to denial of service attacks. So every time that you're adding an API search point, or you're opening yourself up like that, you need to make sure to apply rate limits. And that was one of the things that was missing on that bit of the code. So now that we've seen exactly, it's telling us, okay, this is what's happening. It's been found on the pull request. Then you have the option to remediate, right? Then automatically you already know that this is not good. For this particular pull request, I will just close it out, and then we can just go back to the code and take a look and see exactly where we made the mistake and then add those rate limits and save ourselves a really painful experience after. So this is a very, very powerful tool. And again, it's free for public repos. The queries and the amount of community-driven research that's being done to make CoQL amazing is just it's unparalleled to none. So you have a ton of options here. And this is like, I look at it as Lego sets that you can stack tools on top of the others. So you can actually call on other services outside of GitHub. If you use something like Snake or Stackhawk or any other application security tool, you can use all of this in conjunction. So that is a really cool way to keep just automate that part of it. And then I think we can close on that note. We're going a little bit over time. I'm sorry, I was talking too much about Animal Crossing at the beginning. Just quickly wanted to share like why this even matters, because this is a developer-driven effort. The fact that we have the opportunity to customize all these queries and do things specifically to whatever threat topology you have in your projects. The fact that we now have a community behind it and a security lab that's actually focused 100% on making this a better scanning tool. This is making all our life much easier. At the end of the day, it's going to take a lot more than just scanning and frequent scanning. We need to have that developer-centric focused security mind to know that this is our responsibility. So I love to ask the question again, and I hope the answer is yes, because every single person viewing this is a member of their security team. Whether you think about security best practices or not, if you're writing code, you're a member of your security team, even if it's a team of one and it's your own solitary project. But yeah, that's about all I had today. I hope that you took away some of the things that you can start looking at today. I will share some of the documentation and things on the notes so that you can take a look at, because there's a lot more customizations that you can do. And again, just make this as specific to your projects as possible. I will be super remiss if I didn't invite you all to please join our global meetup group. This is another of the things that I'm typically in the background. If you didn't know it, we have a meetup group, official GitHub meetup group, and we have content that is, I would say it's of interest to anyone. If you're a developer, if you're interested in code, if you're a data scientist, if you're a researcher, you will find something there for you. We try and stay very much on theme for certain events. So we'll have like a security-minded meetup, or we'll have an open source, maybe a couple of maintainers that come in and talk about scaling their projects. And the talks vary from deeply technical, let me show you how to do this, to let's talk about, some of the harder things and maybe open source sustainability, getting folks to contribute to your projects, etc. So I promise it'll be worth your while. Join our meetup group. And yeah, that's all I have. I'm going to bring Beer back so he can usher me off, because typically I will be the one pinging on the private chat saying, hello, the name of the show is 30 minutes to merge. And we're 9 minutes over.
It's all good. I don't think anyone can be upset with being a little over. That was a lot of content. You covered the entire advanced security suite. It was really awesome. I did see one question in chat about if there's going to be a recording on YouTube. There will be. We actually have a bunch of 30-minute to merge content already there. So if this is your first time kind of jumping in with us, you can see some of the other episodes that I've hosted, which is really just me getting to introduce someone really awesome, then them blowing people away, and then me coming in like a bookend and saying it's been fun. But that was awesome. Thank you so much for showing off GitHub Advanced Security. Yeah, the code scanning stuff is really cool. I'm a huge fan of the secret scanning as well. And then obviously Dependabot's been around for a little bit.
Yes.
Dependabot has definitely saved my rear a couple of times. So it's really nice to see it shared with the community.
100%. Yeah, it's sometimes some of these things we don't think about it until it's too late. So here you have all these preemptive tools that you can go ahead and enable. So please, everyone who watched this stream, go enable Dependable. I want to show my boss that this actually matters and we can actually see the needle move a little bit. So please, please, please go do it. I did see someone asking about the meetup group, and yeah, if you just go to meetup.com/GitHub, you'll be able to find it there, but I'll go ahead and share the specific URL. I'll just add it in the comments so you can see it. And if you are from another place and speak another language, or are interested in speaking maybe more technical things in, I don't know, Korean, Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese, we have meetups for that. So join those as well. All right, thank you so much. I super appreciated being here today. Listen, Beard, you say your only job is to come in and then leave, but 30 minutes to merge will not be 30 minutes to merge without your glorious beer
That's
being here.
why they keep bringing me here. Awesome.
So super grateful. And all of you who watch, I am just thrilled and honored to have a bit of your time now. Go forth and have lunch. Sorry we gone over, but again, also if you have any questions about this or want to get connected with someone from the security lab, maybe you are actually thinking about writing your own queries, or you want to look a little bit more under the hood, DM me. My DMs are open, like the cool kid said, and I'll be happy to just make those connections. All right, folks, have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you on the meetups.
All right. See you, everybody. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye.